Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. This is Sedgwick County Commission Board meeting today, and it's great to be here. It's a nice, cool November morning. It's a little bit of change of weather, so that's kind of nice. I'll say thank you for being here. Again, we're streaming this live on our website, as well as we're recording it for YouTube, as well as people to view later on our own website. So I hope people will take advantage of that. We do have an audience here this morning. I'll say thank you for being a part of our meeting today. Today we do have a couple of proclamations we're going to consider, as well as legislature changed an issue with wireless communications and cell towers. We're going to consider a change for the county regarding cell towers. We have a report from the County Extension Office, an agreement with Wichita, interlocal agreement on Law Enforcement Training Center, and we do have a fire district meeting this afternoon, actually at the end of all of that, and an executive session as well. So with that, I want to say thank you for being a part of our meeting today. And with that, Madam Clerk, first item, please.
Invocation to be led by Sister Joan Berger, Sisters of St. Joseph. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
Let us bow our heads as we call to mind God's presence within each person here, and ask that God's ever-loving presence will be recognized in these proceedings this morning. Good and gracious God, Heavenly Father, help us to see your presence in every face here, especially in those who have some issue to present or opinion to express, whether this comes from one of the commissioners or a person in attendance at this meeting. Help all to hear with ears open and minds attentive, and let each person be respectful of the other when they are speaking, responding to one another in an appropriate manner. We ask for a peaceful and productive meeting where personal agendas do not cloud opinions or decisions. We ask all this in your name, O God. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I say thank you to Sister Joan Berger with the Sisters of St. Joseph for being here this morning for the invocation. Thank you for doing that for us. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Call the meeting to order.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I do that every time, don't I? At this time, I'd like to go ahead and call the regular business meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for the month of November the 2nd, 2016 to order. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Enru.
Present.
Commissioner Norton.
Present.
Commissioner Peterjohn.
Present.
Commissioner Ransall.
Present.
Chairman Howell.
Present. All right. I would like to recognize we do have Mayor of Goddard is with us this morning. Marcy Gregory, thank you for being here. And with that, we have Public Information Officer announcements this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kate Flavin, Public Information Officer. You have a lot of business to attend to this morning, but first I'd like to bring up the Election Commissioner Lehman to talk about the general election next week.
Good morning, Commissioners. Well, we are home stretch here. Next Tuesday, obviously, is General Election Day. We have been doing early voting and balloting by mail, and so far 19.5% of Sedgwick County voters have already cast their ballot. So we are excited to see those numbers. We still have about 22,000 ballots that we have mailed that have not been returned to us, so that number makes us very nervous. We encourage people to return those ballots now. Do not delay. At this point, I would recommend people, instead of just putting them in the mail, just go ahead to your closest early voting location and drop that off there, and they will bring that back to our office each night. They will bring those voted ballots back to us, and we can get them tabulated. That way you can know for sure that it reaches us and it's not delayed in the mail system. Do not do that on Election Day. The law is that ballot must be received in our office by 7 p.m. on Election Day. If you take it to a polling place on Election Day, they will not be to us by 7 p.m. on Election Day. We will not be able to count them. So you can bring them to an early voting location, but don't do it on Election Day. On Election Day, you need to bring it down to our office. Just a little tip there. But just wanted to let you know that yesterday we had record-breaking turnout for early voting, the first day that our 15 additional satellite sites were open, and we were just shy of 10,000 people that cast a ballot in Sedgwick County yesterday, which is an all-time record for us. We were very, very excited to see those numbers, very excited to see people voting. Just a reminder, once you've checked in, you have an option to vote paper or machine. We heard from several of those locations that people were waiting for up to half an hour for a voting machine, but they've been offered a paper ballot, and they said they'd rather wait in line for that electronic ballot. So if you want to do that, that's your choice, but you can still vote that paper ballot and walk out the door and be done quickly. So we just want to make sure everybody knows of that option. But just give those reminders. If you wait to vote until Election Day, make sure you go to your designated polling location. If you have moved, you can look up your current address to go to the correct one so you get the correct paper ballot. You will have to vote provisionally to get your address updated, but just make sure you know where you're supposed to be. I did just see on Twitter right before I got up here that Wichita Transit is offering free rides to voters for Election Day. So if you need to take advantage of that, certainly go ahead and do that. But we're very grateful to the city for doing that. So just want to mention those things and see if anybody has any questions.
I think Commissioner Peterjohn may have some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember 4 years ago we had to disqualify because they arrived too late to be counted, a number of mail ballots, and it was a large number. Do you happen to have recollection on how many ballots we couldn't count because they arrived too late to be counted as part of the canvass?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I apologize.
Okay, well, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but it was a very large and very significant number.
I think it was a couple hundred, yeah.
And that's been my experience every time we've done a vote canvass, and so I mention it because I think your words were quite wisely stated that to try and avoid having your ballot excluded because it didn't arrive in the mail on time. There's a way around that, and people need to act accordingly.
Correct. And we did have, we're experiencing, I've been working with an individual whose daughter had requested her ballot be mailed to her in Lawrence, and we sent it on the 19th, and they finally just called and said it arrived yesterday. So it is taking longer. That was first-class mail, so it is taking longer for things to get places, and we know that there's been changes in the postal system, and we know that it's taking longer for things to be delivered, but we just need people to be aware of that when they make their choices on voting by mail. So,
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. And on your 19.5%, can you just clarify how many voters is that? Can you?
That's getting close to 60,000.
About 60,000 voters. Okay.
It's less. It's like 57,000, something like that.
Roughly.
57, 58,000. Yeah,
Very
somewhere
good.
in there.
All right. And that does not count the 22,000 that potentially would come back in that are still out there on mail
Correct.
ballots. Okay, really good. Well, that's great information. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner
Sure.
Lehman.
Thank you, Commissioner. A few more updates for you this morning. As you know, Board of County Commissioners normally meet every Wednesday except for the last Wednesday of the month. Due to several meetings and additional events this month, we will hold a commission meeting on Monday, November 14th, and then on Wednesday, November 30th, here in the commission meeting room at 9 a.m. Next week, in honor of Veterans Day, county offices will be closed on Friday, November 11th, and the county manager, Mike Scholes, will be making a presentation along with the Veterans Coming Home celebration with KBTS, also on Friday, November 11th. And then county offices will be closed again for Thanksgiving on Thursday, November 24th, and Friday, November 25th. And even though county offices are closed, you can still dial 911 and receive emergency services. With that, those are all the announcements that I have for you.
Thank you for that information. And just to clarify, normally we would have potentially have had meetings on the 9th and the 16th and 23rd this month, but because of what you just mentioned, those 3 dates we're not having meetings.
Correct.
Just want to make sure the public is aware that we're not having meetings on those 3 dates.
That's
But
correct.
instead of that, we are doing the November the 14th and November the 30th. That's the only other 2 meetings we have this month besides the one today.
That's
Okay.
right.
Thank you so much for the information this morning, and I hope some of the commissioners get a chance to go see this evening with County Manager Mike Scholes. That'd be a great event. So, all right, thank you so much. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public agenda.
Has anyone signed up this morning to speak to the commission? All right, we'll just let people know in the audience that are here. If you decide you want to speak on an agenda item, we will call out and give you a chance to speak on agenda items as they come before us this morning. So, all right, well, thank you. Next item, please.
Proclamations. Item A, proclamation declaring World Freedom Day.
Commissioners, I do have a proclamation regarding World Freedom Day, and I would like to ask Commissioner Peterjohn if he'd be willing to read this for the commission this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to do so. We would normally, if we had our scheduled meeting on November 9th, that's an important anniversary, especially for folks who remember the Berlin Wall, and it was the day that the Berlin Wall came down. So I have the honor of reading a proclamation. It begins, whereas in August 1961, East German soldiers began building a wall dividing East and West Berlin to close off access for East Germans fleeing to the democratic areas of West Berlin and West Germany. For 28 years, this 12-foot concrete wall, fortified with barbed wire, electrified fences, and watchtowers that circled West Berlin, stood as the Iron Curtain dividing Europe. One side Soviet communist control, the other freedom and democracy of the West. And whereas on June 12, 1987, President Ronald Reagan delivered a passionate speech in West Berlin talking about freedom, prosperity, and the possibility for fundamental change in the Soviet Union to be part of a safe and free world. And as he stood in front of the Brandenburg Gate at the Berlin Wall, President Reagan said those famous six words that helped move the world to change, and therefore change the lives of people worldwide for years to come. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And whereas on November 9th, 1989, with the continuing decline of the Soviet Empire in Eastern Europe and the increasing perseverance of East Germans striving for democracy and a powerful act of freedom, Germans from both sides of the wall joined to tear down the icon of division. The Berlin Wall came down, marking the reunification of Berlin, Germany, and the people who wanted to live a better life. And whereas because of the leadership of the Berlin American High School Alumni Association, also known as the Berlin Brats Alumni Association, who recognized its historical significance, acquired a 4-foot wide section of the Berlin Wall after it fell and donated it to the American Overseas School Historical Society. And with the society's generosity, the people of Wichita, Sedgwick County, and Kansas can see a section of the wall on loan to the Museum of World Treasures. Now therefore here be it resolved, I, Jim Howell, Chairman of the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners, do hereby acknowledge November 9th, 2016 as World Freedom Day, as proclaimed by U.S. presidents for many years, and as citizens to reflect on the rich world events of our past and reaffirm our hearts to freedom and democracy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Commissioner
I'll
Peter
move this motion that we adopt the proclamation.
Second.
Oh, very good. We have a motion and a second. And Commissioner Peter John, thank you for reading that. It's tremendous history for us to reflect upon this morning. And with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and that motion passes. I'd like to recognize Chief Development Officer, Museum of World Treasures, Lon Smith, this morning to receive the proclamation. And I'd like to ask him if he'd like to come forward and say a little something about receiving this morning.
Well, Commissioners, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. In 1982, I traveled through a checkpoint at Bratislava, then Czechoslovakia, and traveled extensively around several Eastern Bloc countries. And they lived a very different lifestyle, without going into detail, and one that was not, in my assessment, very pleasant. And I think this is a great opportunity, again, for us to reflect, as you said, on the history and to really appreciate the blessings that we have in this country as citizens of the United States. It's a great country. It's a great place to live and work. And we are proud at the Museum of World Treasures to have the opportunity to display this section of wall and have people come there and understand the history and learn more about what it meant to our world and how we can maybe live a different and better way moving into the future.
Mr. Smith, it'd be great to come by there and take a look at that someday. I appreciate you receiving that this morning and for your comments.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything for Mr. Smith before he goes?
I'm sorry.
All right. Seeing none, thank you again, once again. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item B, proclamation declaring Wichita Junior ROTC Leadership Week.
Very good. Commissioners, I do have one more proclamation I would like to read this morning. It says, whereas Junior ROTC was officially implemented in American high schools in 1916, began in Kansas in 1917, and in Wichita in 1994. Whereas cadet leadership programs were started in selected middle schools in 1997, making Wichita a leader and in the nation in this initiative. And whereas the junior ROTC and leadership programs are recognized in Wichita for building citizenship and good character in our youth, and whereas there are now more than 2,300 Wichita participating as cadets in 18 of our public high schools, now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Howell, Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November the 5th through the 11th, 2016 as Wichita Junior ROTC Leadership Week, in recognition of these fine young men and women who are becoming better leaders and citizens for the future through their involvement in junior ROTC and leadership programs. Commissioners, what's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the proclamation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, heard more than three, so this motion passes as well. Thank you so much for that. And I'd like to recognize Corps Commander Cadet Colonel Manuel Garcia this morning to receive the proclamation. I'd like to ask him to come to the podium and say something about receiving the proclamation this morning.
Good morning. As you guys know, my name is Cadet Colonel Manuel Garcia. I am the USD 259 2016-2017 Corps Commander, and I'd like to thank you and inform you of how honored our Corps is to receive this proclamation. As you know, our cadets work very hard to serve the community and our schools, and they've done this to the effect of 19,000 community service hours over this past school year. Another way that our cadets show their values of patriotism, service, and loyalty is our Veterans Day ceremony that we will be performing on the 10th of November at 10 a.m. at Century 2 Expo Hall. I'd like to invite all of our county commissioners and everybody attending to attend our ceremony as we honor our veterans and their service and sacrifice for our nation. There will be a pass and review parade of our cadets, a presentation of the colors, and former U.S. Senator Nancy Casselbaum Baker will provide words of wisdom for our cadets. Again, I'd like to thank everybody on the Board of County Commissioners to receive this noteworthy proclamation.
Well, can I call you Commander, or should I want me to call you Colonel? What would you prefer?
You can call me Garcia.
Well, I'm not going to do that. I'll call you Colonel Garcia. Colonel Garcia, you do have some folks with you this morning. Would you like to introduce them or have them come over? Would you mind? There's only three more folks here. So would you mind going over next to Commander Garcia? And I'd like to hear your names and what high school you attend. And then I guess we have one that's maybe not in high school. I'd like to know a little more about you. All right.
I'm Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Losing, and I attend Wichita South High School.
Very good.
I am Cadet Command Sergeant Major Toll. I go to Wichita South High School as well.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Colonel retired Bob Kennedy, and I'm the supervisor for the Wichita Public Schools Junior ROTC and Leadership Instruction Program.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of you that are serving, and especially Mr. Kennedy. I think that this is a tremendous program that has changed many youth in this community, and it's a tremendous positive program, and I hope everyone gets involved in it to the greatest extent possible. And Commander Garcia, what high school did you attend, or do you attend?
I'm currently attending Wichita West High.
West High. So two from South High and one from West High. Very good. Again, well, thank you for being here. Any commissioner comments before you guys are dismissed here? All right, Commissioner Unruh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make a comment of how you make us proud just looking at you. You guys look so sharp and official, and we appreciate the way that you present yourselves in the way you speak, and it clearly is a demonstration of leadership and the effectiveness of the JROTC program. So you all are representing your Corps very well, and as I said, I think I can speak for our citizens to say that we're proud of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Unruh. Commissioner Norton?
Well, it's good to have you here today. You know, for years and years and years, it's been Colonel Hester. And today, Colonel Kennedy, we're glad to have you here. And you have big shoes to fill, but you got a great start with these young men, I can tell you. If you've ever been to that ceremony, it is amazing to see that many teenagers corralled and doing what they're supposed to all at one time. If you've raised teenagers, it's hard to get 2 or 3 of them to line up and do what they're supposed to do, but there's hundreds that line up and honor America by being good at what they do. So thanks for coming today. the public should stop by and see that. If you want to see the best in our youth today, stop by on the 10th and see this program, because it is pretty amazing. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Norton. Any other comments? All right, seeing none. I just want to say one more thing. And excuse me. I was in the Air Force, and trying to make my uniform look as good as that would be impossible. You guys look fantastic, and that's a lot of what we call fruit salad on your ribbons there. It's a tremendous amount of accomplishment. You guys have obviously done a tremendous amount of things to receive that type of recognition. So, again, you all look fantastic, and the leadership that you guys provide for the community is just tremendous. So thank you once again, and with that, we'll let you go. You're dismissed.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Planning Department. Excuse me. Item C, updates to the Wireless Communication Master Plan and the Unified Zoning Code regulations of wireless communication facilities.
That's not it. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Scott Knable with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. The item before you today is a proposed amendment to the Wireless Communication Master Plan, as well as the implementing provisions in the Unified Zoning Code. This is a result of an action that was adopted by the Kansas legislature in the latest session. It was Senate substitute for House Bill 2131. It provided statewide rules, if you will, or law, as it relates to regulation of wireless communication facilities, both on private property as well as within right-of-way. As it relates to the changes, as the Sedgwick County and the City of Wichita, which have a joint plan and a joint code to regulate these types of facilities, the state law no longer allows the municipalities to require documentation when an application is submitted that there is the possibility to locate the wireless infrastructure or equipment on an existing wireless facility. We also cannot prohibit, which our current code does, building of wireless communication facilities, or as most commonly called towers, if there is no demonstrated communication need. And so we may see some applications for what's so-called speculative facilities, areas where a company that's in the business of building a tower comes to submit an application to build a tower with the hope that they will then be able to lease space to wireless communication providers like cell companies or others. We also can no longer evaluate the merits of a co-location opportunity, even if we know, if we have our own information. We can't, the first bullet says we can't require the applicant to document the ability to co-locate the facility, but even if we have our own information, we cannot base a decision of denial for a new facility on information that we know of available opportunities for co-location. We cannot require small cell or shorter facilities, which I'll show you in a minute, in areas that are designated as visually and environmentally sensitive. There's a map that was adopted as part of our code that shows those areas where we had the opportunity to require different types of facilities. We can no longer do that. And then we cannot require, as a condition of approval of a new facility, that the builder of that facility allow other communication providers to co-locate on that facility. So given those changes in state statute, the draft plan and amendments to the Unified Zoning Code that you have before you today removes all of the requirements that were in both the plan and the code regarding co-location, both documentation of the ability to co-locate as well as requiring co-location on approval, as well as removes any restrictions on construction of speculative facilities. There's been a number of changes to definitions in the plan that are reflective of defined terms that the state has defined for the first time. Our plan has always had a set of defined terms as it relates to wireless communication facilities, and we've now put in our plan definitions that are consistent with the state law. As we were going through this process, we had an actual facility request in the Delano neighborhood, which has a zoning overlay which prohibits outright wireless communication facilities. As part of the discussion of that request with the Delano Advisory Committee, they decided that given these changes to state law, it made sense to change our local ordinance and resolution to allow wireless facilities in the Delano neighborhood with approval of a conditional use, and so that is also a part of this action. We are changing the way we treat wireless facilities as they relate to what we call the compatibility height standard. That compatibility height standard defines how far away from a property line of a single family or two family zone property a structure has to be based on its height. We're changing that piece to match other structures. It was different for wireless facilities, and we felt like reading the statute, we were no longer able to treat wireless facilities different from other types of structures. We're changing the code to allow the Planning Commission and the governing body to grant zoning adjustments. One of the ways, in fact, the only way a compatibility height standard can be changed or waived as part of an application is through what's called a zoning adjustment, which is granted by the planning director. In the sense of efficiency, we felt like if there was an application that was before the Planning Commission or the governing body, those bodies ought to be able to go ahead and grant that adjustment at that time, as opposed to having a follow-on application to the planning director. And then we also allow in this the governing body to modify supplementary use regulations which relate to the types of facilities and so forth that are required. So we're giving the governing body as much flexibility, as well as the Planning Commission, as much flexibility as we can to consider these facilities going forward. The design guidelines really don't change in the wireless plan. The code says that facilities should be approved with conditions that make the facility consistent with these design guidelines, and these design guidelines really aren't changing, but I thought I would cover them for you. What we're looking for is matching the character of the area. In other words, when you're putting a very industrial type structure like a tower in a location, the character of that area should be more commercial or industrial as opposed to residential. If you're going to do a facility in a residential area, then the facility should be shorter, should match the types of vertical structures that you see in residential areas, such as power poles or light poles, as opposed to very tall commercial type towers. We look to minimize the height so that as the design of the structure is put in place, that the height is what is needed to accomplish the task. We look to use colors that blend with the environment. Typically that means we're looking for a galvanized metal finish that blends with the sky. A lot of people think the sky is blue, but when you put something blue with the sky in the background, you see that the sky is really usually pretty gray. And gray tends to blend in with that environment. Sometimes we will use, in areas where there are a lot of black light poles, we'll use a black pole because it just blends in with that environment. We look to place these in locations where trees or buildings obscure the view, particularly from low-density residential development. If there is a building or tree that is in the sight line as you look up to a facility, you actually can block the view of something very tall like a 150-foot tower with, say, a 30 or 40-foot tree if it's placed in the right location. We look to screen the ground-level equipment and then restrict the use of aircraft warning lights to circumstances when they're required only, as opposed to putting them in place when perhaps the not required by the FAA. This shows on the left 2 slides the types of towers that the plan encourages. The monopole tower, which is in the center, is the primary type of facility that we're looking. It minimizes the silhouette of the facility. It blends better with the background typically. If the plan also suggests that if you are to do a lattice type tower, that it be the type that has the antennas mounted directly to the tower, as opposed to what the one on the right here shows what is called an antenna array, which extends beyond the tower. Also, the other guideline is that cabling on a lattice tower should be mounted directly to the vertical support poles, as opposed to the cross support members, which you can see the cabling on the tower on the right. There's 2 sets of cables that then add to the ability for that structure to stick out in the skyline. Right-of-way is the biggest change in the state statute, and the County Commission's actually already addressed this at their meeting in September, last meeting in September. The state statute requires municipal governments to allow wireless communication facilities in the right-of-way. Up until you made the recent change, Sedgwick County did not make provisions for that. So going forward, there will be applications to your Public Works Department for communication facilities to be located in the right-of-way. The design guidelines that are in the wireless plan match some of the information that is in the state statute, as well as some of the considerations that we use for private property facilities. The statute specifically states that the municipal governments can consult with adjoining property owners when locating a wireless communication facility in the right-of-way adjacent to their property, and so the plan suggests that that consultation should be required of the applicant. They should be required to notify that property owner and take into account any feedback they get from that property owner about the design of the facility to address concerns they may have about the impact on their property and the property values. It indicates that the wiring that's used, similar to what I discussed previously, should be mounted inside the pole or in conduit attached to the exterior of the pole as opposed to being exposed. There are provisions in there for public safety and not locating these in sight triangles and other locations that might obstruct visibility of traffic and those sorts of things. Also suggests that when these facilities are placed in the right-of-way, that future plans for the right-of-way, such as street widenings or utilities that perhaps don't exist in the right-of-way today but are planned, like a water line or a sewer line or other types of utilities, be considered, and that these facilities be placed such that they don't conflict with those future plans. And then there's recommendations on facility height. It recommends a 40-foot height in the right-of-way unless the city or county engineer suggests that a different height is appropriate for that location and matches the character of the area. And then the final piece suggests that when placing these facilities in the right-of-way, the preferred approach is to take an existing pole that's already in the right-of-way and replace it or modify it to add the wireless communication equipment. That, as you can see on the left, there's a existing light pole that's been replaced. The antenna is on the top. The height of it's been extended about 10 feet in comparison to the other poles that you can see, other light poles you can see in that right-of-way. What's discouraged is to, and it's not that it can't be done, particularly, it's just that that's not the preferred approach, is to install a single-purpose pole, a new pole, an additional pole in the right-of-way that is only for the wireless communication facility, and that's the example that you see on the right. So that's all the information I have. Hopefully that was all clear. If you have any questions, I'm certainly able to answer them. And the recommended action is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission, which has recommended this to you, approve the wireless communication master plan, and adopt the amendments to the zoning code.
All right. Well, Mr. Knable, thank you for the presentation and explanation on what we're doing this morning. I would like to ask the audience if there's anyone here that would like to speak on or ask questions or speak on the agenda item this morning. All right, seeing none, bringing it back to the board here. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Or Commissioner Peterjohn?
Yes, just a clarification. This law that was passed by the state, is it uniform for purposes of home rule, both for cities and counties, and if it is non-uniform, how would it vary for cities of the second or third class?
Right. The statute is uniform. It does have a reference to the use of home rule, and it relates to the regulation of wireless communication facilities in the right-of-way. And the provision of franchise agreements and other mechanisms that cities are authorized to use by statute to regulate those. But in terms of the applicability, it is uniform across the state.
Okay, so the cities and counties cannot exercise home rule powers to opt out of the statute in any way, shape, or form.
That's the opinion that I've been given by our legal staff. That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterjohn. Commissioner Unruh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, if this is state law, do we have much of an option here?
In terms of the regulation of facilities, I mean, we still do have the ability to exercise zoning authority on private property, and that is what the wireless plan provides. It provides us an approach to address the impacts of these facilities on surrounding properties, and an ability to place conditions and design criteria on facilities so that the impact of the facility on surrounding properties is mitigated. And that's what is presented to you here today. It's not that we don't have the ability to regulate. We just can no longer require co-location on existing facilities. We cannot either before the fact or after the fact, and we have to allow the facilities in the right-of-way.
Okay, did the city of Wichita act on this yesterday?
They did not. They're going to consider it next Tuesday.
Okay. Well, I was talking to a city council person, and the request to me is that we defer this till after they took action on it, partly on the reason that has there been some applications and to put these towers up in some of our more some of our developed areas that have obvious aesthetic qualities to it, and they don't want these poles going up or these towers going up. I guess
there have been, yeah. I mean, there's literally been not since the statute was adopted, but since the advent of wireless communications, there's literally hundreds of facilities that have been constructed in the community. There have been a few recent requests, and even I think a couple of facilities constructed in right-of-way where the adjoining property owners were not satisfied with the design and location of the facility. I think one of the facilities is in the process of being relocated based on the adjoining property owner's feedback, and that's a big part of what is in this plan. And it's in the statute as well. That issue arose as the state was debating this item, and they included the ability to confer, if you will, with adjoining property owners and design the facility in a way that lessened the impact. But yes, those circumstances are occurring in limited instances.
Well, and it's just an anecdotal comment. I don't know the fact, but in my district, at both the waterfront development and at Bradley Fair, I was told that there were requests to put up towers there, and of course those are pretty aesthetically pleasing areas, and they didn't want these towers going up, and they under this law they couldn't, unless people agree to work together, they can't really stop it. Is that?
I agree that you can't outright prohibit it from being located in the right-of-way. I think there is the ability to require the design to match the character of the area, to address the aesthetic concerns that you're talking about, using the preferred approach of taking an existing light pole in one of those developments and adding an antenna to the top of it as opposed to adding an entirely new pole. Those are the things that the plan recommends going forward to try to address those circumstances.
Okay, well, I think we'd all like to have great wireless communication capability and not have any dead spots and that sort of thing. And I think, in general, we're in favor of deregulation. But if there's a way that the property owners can negotiate with the people putting it up and come to an agreeable solution, I think that's important. But is that the reason the city of Wichita deferred theirs?
In terms of deferring it from the 1st to the 8th, I didn't get a real clear answer as to why. I think there is some hesitancy to do this, and I think they probably just wanted to have additional discussions with constituents and so forth before they considered it. Okay. It'll be. I don't know exactly what to expect on Tuesday.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I understand what you're saying, but I just like to, I guess, work in harmony with our colleagues across the street in respecting their concerns. In general, I think in the briefing I told you that, well, if state law, we got to do it, and our Metropolitan Area Planning Commission has approved it, will probably be something we should support. But because of their hesitancy and reluctance, I would not be opposed to holding this off to hear what they come up with. But
and to get at your point, this is proposed as a joint code amendment, if you will, to the Unified Zoning Code and plan amendment, to where both governing bodies are proposed to adopt the same thing. So to the extent that there is some issue with perhaps the city not taking the same action as the county, then that probably is a wise move to defer to see what they do.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Unruh. Mr. Knable, is there anything in the law that requires us to change this by a certain date? Is there an implementation date we have to be ready for?
The actual effective date of the statute is October 1st, so we're actually already beyond it. We're already in conflict with the statute, and actually did have a case before the Planning Commission at their first meeting in October, where we, based on legal advice, did not require the facility to require co-location in the future, didn't factor in the ability of co-location as a decision factor on that case because the law was already in effect.
In your opinion, has this changed the minimum amount needed to be in compliance with state law? Have we gone beyond and allowed more than others? Do we have retained as much authority and control as possible in light of the state law, or have we gone beyond minimum changes?
In terms of the changes that we're making, I think we're making the minimum changes that the state is requiring us to make. I think the process that is most affected, well, two things. The things that are most affected is our approach to co-location and really relying on an analysis of whether or not a new facility is needed or not based on the ability to locate on existing facilities. And then if we decide to build a new facility, building it in a way that maximizes the ability for that facility to be used by others in the future in lieu of building yet another additional facility. That's the biggest change. And then provisions for locating these in the right-of-way is a big change to the county, in that the county was not allowing that. The city has been. The city's been doing franchise agreements and has been allowing wireless facilities in the right-of-way for 5 or 6 years now, and there's well over 100 of those facilities in the right-of-way now.
I guess what I'm getting at is, if we were to delay this, is there some way that we could be sensitive to the areas that Commissioner Unruh was referring to that would somehow protect them in some way that's not already in this document as it sits right now? Is there something we could do that you can imagine that would...
I don't think that there's any significant impact to deferring. There's not any applications on real property in the pipeline. The facilities, I'm not aware that there are any county facilities proposed in the right-of-way at this point, so I don't think there's any impact to deferring.
Okay, so because there's no applicants right now, the deferring wouldn't cause any
Right.
problems with any...
Yeah, and even if people were to make application now, the process with the due process with legal notification and so forth, those cases wouldn't be considered until middle of December.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other comments or questions? Commissioner Norton.
Scott, when the city issues a franchise agreement, is there a permitting fee that goes with that?
There is a franchise fee, which is different than the permitting fee. There is also a per facility permit fee, which is essentially a cost recovery fee of inspection and those sorts of things, to because when they cut holes in the right of way, the city then has to go out and inspect to make sure that that was done properly and safely. So there is both of those things associated with it, yes.
With the change out into the county, with no franchising agreements that we would sign, how would we handle inspections and the ability to say that they were installed properly and they're not going to cause harm to anyone?
Well, and I can let Mr. Spears address that if he wants. As I understand it, there is a permit application, a right-of-way application that you make that involves, and I don't recall whether there's a fee associated with it. There is. I'm seeing that there is.
Right. David Spears, Director of Public Works, would be treated as like any other utility wanting to be in our right-of-way. There would be a permit process they go through.
But there's no franchise fee per se.
As I understand it, the statutes don't authorize counties to franchise utilities.
So we're not exactly playing on the same equal field as the cities and municipalities.
Correct.
That's all I have to hear.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Norton. Further comments? Commissioner Unruh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since there's no crises or pressing reason why we have to take care of this today, I would move that we defer this to our next meeting, and we can take the opportunity in the meantime to find out what some of the city's concerns are, since this is a jointly approved policy. And so my motion is that we defer this to this agenda item to the next meeting.
Second. And for clarity, that would be the November 14th meeting, which is that Monday morning. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Does that seem agreeable to Mr. Knable? Does that seem to work okay? All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn?
Aye.
Commissioner Ransall?
Aye.
Chairman Howell?
Aye. All right, thank you, everyone. Next item, please.
New business, item D, County Extension Quarterly Report.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Jones. I'm the Director of the Sedgwick County Extension Office. Happy to be here this morning, talk to you a little bit about our achievements and highlights for the year, and then I have a special announcement to make and to share with you. Before I start, I want to show you some photos of our new parking lot. Very, very grateful to the commissioners and especially to Commissioner Peterjohn for pushing this project through. If you can tell by these not so great photos, it's hard to take pictures that really show how great the parking lot now looks. But we've had a lot of compliments on our new parking lot. The county also has come out and resurfaced some other areas, potholes and such, that were causing some safety issues within our front of our building, and then also all of the lines have been redrawn. So when you have 2 to 3 to sometimes 5,000 people out at the office for the farmers market, it's really important that safety be an issue. So we're really proud of this and have heard a lot of really positive comments. So thank you. As you may know, I have been now the director for just a little bit over 2 years. Wanted to highlight a few of the things that I have tried to do during my tenure as director. If you also will recall, Bev Dunning, who served as the director, was in charge for 20 years. So there was a lot of things that really needed some attention and just a different approach. One of those was realigning our staff and hiring what I believed were more individuals who had a better knowledge and skill set for some of the things that we needed to do. I've also established a consistent social media presence, so you can find us on Facebook. We have an e-newsletter that goes out. I've also completely overhauled our website. For citizens, you can find information about all of our programs as well as register and pay for classes online at sedgwick.kstate.edu. I've attempted to improve our customer service by adding online registration and payment options. Those weren't available before. You had to come into the office or call over the phone. I've worked to improve key relationships with producers and growers, our farmers market vendors, our community partners, and our extension volunteers. This has taken quite a bit of time, something certainly that I enjoy doing. We've implemented new background checks and a screening process that is required of all volunteers who work with youth to help ensure safety. And I've also increased engagement with surrounding county extension offices as a way to better serve our public. So we've been doing some things with Reno County and Harvey County to better serve individuals in Sedgwick County and as well those counties. We've also improved our technology and upgraded our equipment. That was something that staff really needed help with, and we were able to make some adjustments due to some staff layoffs that freed up some dollars to do that. Wanted to just highlight a few of our achievements over this past year and in this quarter. The number of individuals that we served through our Medicare counseling was 6,361. Medicare counseling is going on right now in terms of our open enrollment period. It closes December 7th. It began October 15th. By October 14th, we had every single slot scheduled to come in and visit with a counselor, so we have now a waiting list. Individuals can still call our office at 316-660-0100 to schedule a Medicare open enrollment appointment. The number of hours that our Sedgwick County Master Gardeners contributed to our community was more than 15,000. I'm a data person. I think you all like data, so I'm attempting to share some of that with you this morning. Number of phone calls received by our office is approximately 30,000 phone calls. That's to our agents, to our receptionists, fielding questions, and so forth. We also donated more than 80,000 pounds of food through our Plant a Row program that's offered through our Sedgwick County Master Gardeners. Number of viewers that we reach through our noon segments. We do have noon segments that show on Thursday and Friday on Channel 12, answering questions about healthy eating and gardening as well. And then the number of Sedgwick County youth that are served through our 4-H program, through our clubs and enrichment, is more than 10,000. If you remember as well, at our last report, Kent Winter came and visited with you all, as well as my agricultural agent, Zach Simon. He was instrumental in discovering the sugarcane aphid. I believe they visited with you about that. In doing that last year and again this year, we've saved what we believe is about 40,000 acres of farmland and $9 million that could have been lost had that aphid not been discovered. So we're really proud of that achievement. We've given 2,200 presentations over the past year to the community, partnered with more than 80 organizations, answered more than 4,500 gardening questions through our hotline, Master Gardener calls, or through our walk-in clinic, which is our response room. I know Commissioner Peter John visited that not too long ago, and hopefully we were able to help him in diagnosing a tree issue he was having. It takes about 850 individuals to run our volunteer programs, and the amount saved through our SHIC our SHIC counseling program, which is our Senior Health Insurance Counseling of Kansas program, was $1.5 million last year. So these are really great highlights and achievements, things that we're super proud of. As a result of that, last week at Kansas State, wanted you to know that we were named Outstanding Extension Office of the Year for the state. We have 61 extension offices throughout Kansas, and we were named as the outstanding office. I've been working with Kate Flavin on coming up with a communication plan on how we'll advertise that and promote that award, but also wanted to extend an invitation to commissioners as well as the county manager's office on Thursday, December 8th from 4 to 6 to celebrate that achievement. That's my report today.
All right. Well, Director Jones, thank you for the report. Excellent job. One thing that stood out to me was the number of individuals served through Medicare counseling, 6,361. I think the majority of them, about 6,000, have contacted me saying how great that program is.
Oh, thank you. Thank
It's been
you.
tremendous. A lot of feedback. People really like that help.
Thank you.
And so I want to say thank you for that. Tremendous report. A lot of good things going on. Congratulations on being the best of 61.
Thank you.
That is quite an accomplishment.
Thank you.
Has the Sedgwick County Extension Office ever received this recognition before?
We have not.
It's the first time. How long have they been awarding this type of?
I believe this particular award is fairly new, maybe within the last 10 years.
That's fantastic, and I am glad to see the new parking lot out there. It looks fantastic, and I want to recognize Commissioner Peter John for him selecting that in his district as a item that needed some help, and he helped get that done. So kudos to him.
Yes.
I think Commissioner Peter John has some questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate you coming in, and especially appreciate the pictures, and congratulations on receiving that award for the Sedgwick County Extension Office.
Thank you.
I'd hasten to add that we still have some areas out there that could still be paved in terms of parking, so it wasn't, unfortunately, we weren't able to do the entire lot. I want to commend the Public Works Department and Mr. Spears as our assistant county manager for that area, because it's a really good looking job. It was done, Dave, and all the feedback I've been getting also has been quite positive, and I'm glad to at least have that accomplishment as part of the. I don't know if you're going to include a Dave in your roadshow come next month, but it certainly deserves some attention. Let me ask some questions in terms of on several things, and like the chairman, I've also received a number of communications from folks who appreciate your help with SHIC and Medicare sign up. It's, I think, so kind of a sad commentary on the times that for folks who are trying to access Medicare that they've paid into for years, they've got to come to a third party to be able to do so. But I think for folks who can hear my voice at the moment, that resource is out there, and before we get out of here, please, Ms. Jones, provide us with that phone number if people are interested in terms of getting calling for that. I do have some questions because it just seems like we have a whole bunch of challenges coming in on the in terms of mainly from insects, whether or small oak mites, sugar. Now you mentioned sugarcane aphids, emerald ash borers. I don't know if this is the right time. If this isn't the right time, if you've got the right person, you can come back with the right person who could give us kind of an update on all three of those and anything else in the realm of the entomology or animal kingdom that we need to get an update on in terms of challenges, because
Absolutely.
whether folks have ash trees or oak trees and they're struggling with oak mites, I think that's really it seems to be a lot of new challenges out there.
Absolutely. And really that's our horticulture agents who could come in and visit with you more about that. We do have a lot of calls that we're taking on those issues, trying to work through the Wichita Eagle to get information out to the public on how to deal with those, certainly through our Facebook page as well. We're posting about certain things that we have. You can always find information as well through our website, which is sedgwick.kstate.edu if you'd like that information. The phone number to call for our Medicare appointment, 316-660-0100.
Is that just for Medicare, or would that be for any?
The whole office, you could.
For all offices.
All
okay.
offices.
Appreciate you getting that onto the record.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterjohn. Commissioner Unruh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Ms. Jones, thank you for being here today. It's a very glowing report that you presented to us, and the statistical data that you presented is really impressive. A couple of the items that I picked out that indicate how involved in the community our Extension Center is 30,000 phone calls, is a lot of contact with citizens. And I was also impressed by the fact that you partnered with more than 80 different organizations in the community, which is the type of interaction and working together that we like to see in our organization. So congratulations on your award, and congratulations on your success this year.
Thank you.
But one question I had, did you say that all of your slots for counseling are full?
All of our slots for counseling are full right now. We are offering a walk-in day. That's going to be in early December. I'll make sure and get that to Kate so she can have that in your public announcements. We offered that 2 weeks ago. We had over 200 people come in at our walk-in day and wait.
Could you handle 200?
We did. We have about 27 volunteers who are trained in Medicare counseling, as well as 2 full-time staff members. So it was a little bit of a wait, and some questions took a little bit longer than others, but yes, we accommodated.
All right. Well, I, like the others, have received much thanks and congratulations for us supporting you in that effort.
Thank you.
And I know it's a complicated process, so I know the citizens appreciate it. But for those who don't get an appointment, that's Medicare, a real challenge.
It is. Medicare counseling is available by appointment anytime through the year, but only this open enrollment period that runs mid-October through December 7th. If you're wanting to make any changes to your plan, do you need to come in and see us?
Okay. Well, once again, good report, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Peterjohn.
Oh, I forgot to ask one last question. I know you all had an election for the Extension Board.
We did.
All the folks, everyone here in Sedgwick County was eligible to vote.
Yes.
I was curious, how many people, do you have any idea roughly how many folks cast ballots in that election?
We did. We actually offered some satellite voting this year in Andale, Clearwater, Derby, and Mount Hope. We had a good turnout at those election sites, and unfortunately, we only increased our voter turnout by about 25. So last year it was about 215, and this year is about 238. Our experience this year in our office was that people were really turned off by anything that had anything to do with an election at all. So we just couldn't get as many people interested in voting this year. And we just kept hearing that over and over again. But certainly the attempt was there. We did a much broader advertisement of the opportunity to vote and where, offering the satellite options, staffing those with volunteers. And again, I was happy with the turnout of those outside election sites, but just not in our office.
Well, I was going to say, when I was over at the Extension office at 21st and Ridge, there were quite a few other folks casting ballots like myself, so I do appreciate the number and do appreciate the report, Ms. Jones. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we receive and file the quarterly county extension report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, but I think there's a little bit more discussion perhaps. I'd like to just ask for someone to vote in the election. Do they have to be a registered voter for Sedgwick County or just a citizen?
They have to be a resident of Sedgwick County and 18 years old.
And 18 years old. So you do verify their address to make sure it's inside Sedgwick County. But
We
they
do.
could be an unregistered voter for the purposes of the other elections, but still vote in this election.
Yes.
Okay. And then I do need to ask, is there anybody in the audience who would like to add to this discussion before we go on? All right. Seeing none. We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right. Seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Chairman Howell?
Aye. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item E, interlocal agreement between the City of Wichita, Kansas and Sedgwick County, Kansas for the management and operations of the Law Enforcement Training Center.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Misha Jacob Warren, Assistant County Counselor. Before you today is an interlocal agreement by and between Sedgwick County and the City of Wichita for the management of the Law Enforcement Training Center. As you are well aware, the City and County have long conducted law enforcement training together. The current facility, as you are also very well aware, is no longer conducive to our needs. And so earlier this year, we chose to purchase a new turnkey facility that will be housed at the Wichita State University Innovation Campus for the purpose of conducting law enforcement training. As that goes along, we are trying to get, before we purchase that building, we need to get a little bit ahead of things and describe how operations of this facility are going to run. We like to keep it as simple as possible, but the Attorney General, via the Interlocal Cooperation Act, does require us to set forth some things in writing. So in this agreement, I will call your attention to just a few things. First, the purpose, of course, is to continue to enhance the quality and quantity of law enforcement training provided both by the Wichita Police Department and our Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office by maintaining a shared training academy, sharing certain agreed upon costs, thereby reducing the costs for everyone. We, of course, both entities will have joint full use of the facility. We will have equal access to the facility, just as we do now. And we are leaving it up to Sheriff Easter and Chief Ramsey to establish specific training schedules so that we know when they need to be conducted together, when each party might need more of the facility or less of the facility. The biggest thing I want to call your attention to is the administration. The Interlocal Cooperation Act requires us to set forth how this agreement is going to be administered. And so because this is between both parties, we opted to develop what we are referring to as a joint board. And on this board will be the Wichita Chief of Police, Sedgwick County Sheriff, one representative appointed by yourselves, one representative appointed by the City of Wichita, and one representative from Wichita State University, since the facility is housed on their campus. As things stand, the budget is currently the exact same as we enjoy now with the City of Wichita. Everything is split 50-50. As you also well know, the Wichita State University has graciously offered to provide all operations and maintenance costs for the first 5 years of this agreement. That includes all types of utilities, things that you generally associate with operations and maintenance. The one thing I will tell you that it does not cover and that all parties have agreed to provide separately is all technology costs. So anything having to do with internet, wireless communications of any kind, all of that kind of thing. So a couple of other things I will draw your attention to is we have to describe in detail, for purposes of the statute, the acquisition, holding, and disposition of real property. It has been discussed between the two parties that we will follow the county's purchasing policies if we are purchasing any kind of joint property. We will also follow the county's policies for disposal of any kind of property. And the thing is that once we purchase this building, the building will be ours. Half owned by the City of Wichita, half owned by Sedgwick County. And although we don't like to talk about it, especially now, as a lawyer, I have to plan for every single eventuality. And so we have to put something in there as to what happens in the event that one or both parties wants to vacate this facility. And I'm just drawing your attention to this because it's an important part of this agreement. Our agreement currently is that if both parties choose to vacate this facility, it must first be offered to sale to Wichita State University. That's a right of first refusal that they're requiring of all properties that are housed on their innovation campus. In the event that it does not go to Wichita State, then we've agreed to hire an appraiser, get a fair market value, split the cost thereof equally. In the event that only one of us wants to vacate the facility, we will still hire the appraiser, and the non-vacating party will just be paid half of that share. Everything else contained in the agreement is kind of boilerplate language: insurance, budget, assignment, amendments, waiver, all of those kinds of things. So those are the highlights of the agreement. What I want to say is that an interlocal agreement is no small feat. And as I tell you often, and I tell the manager and his staff often, my job is simply to put words on paper. And so I would be remiss if I didn't thank not only everyone else in our office, but also the sheriff's office, the finance department, risk management, and of course our counterparts at the city, including Chief Ramsey, their legal department, finance departments. They worked very hard to put this together and to come to an agreement. So the recommendation, of course, is to authorize the chairman to sign, also the corresponding resolution that goes with this. Upon your approval, it will go across the street for the City of Wichita's approval and then on to the Attorney General for his approval. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, well, thank you for the explanation this morning. Commissioner Peterjohn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the presentation. Can you walk through just a second, because you mentioned at the end, obviously, we've got to get the agreements, and we're working with that with the City of Wichita. What's the time frame for getting the Attorney General on board on this?
Once we submit the agreement to the Attorney General, he has 90 days. If we don't hear back from him within 90 days, then that means we're all good to go. We, of course, would always like to get the letter that specifically states that we're good to go, in which we fully expect that to happen, but he does have 90 days.
So we're probably anticipating this being completed, all the I's being dotted and T's being crossed on both ends sometime in the first quarter of 2017.
That is our hope, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we know whether this interlocal agreement is holding up the construction in any way? Are they moving forward regardless of this agreement today?
At this time, I'm not entirely certain if they're moving forward. There are a lot of moving pieces, not only to this interlocal agreement, which kind of governs everything inside the facility, but myself, along with my counterpart at the city, are working very diligently with the developers as well to finalize the real estate purchase agreement. And so I'm not entirely certain if they have started construction yet, or if they've started at least moving some dirt around. But I can tell you that efforts on our end are working almost daily to make sure that that happens as soon as possible.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you. I don't see any comments at the moment. I'd like to ask the audience, is there anybody here that would like to comment on this agenda item? All right. Seeing none. Commissioners, what's the will of the board? Oh, Commissioner Ranzau.
Mr. Chairman, I move we take the recommended action.
Okay. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right, seeing none. Well, Commissioner Peterjohn.
I'll just say appreciate the hard work of everyone in your office, Misha, and the other county employees and their counterparts across the street with the City of Wichita. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that getting this agreement in place is something that's been, depending upon who you talk to and when you talk to them, has been an effort that's been underway going back at least into the last century, and maybe back even a couple decades into the last century. And even though this doesn't get us close to the finish line or to a ribbon cutting in terms of when it's going to be open sometime, I think, next year, I think this is a significant milestone, a significant achievement for both everyone involved with the City of Wichita as well as folks here in Sedgwick County, and that deserves some attention, and because there's been a lot of, in my view, inaccurate comments about how there's a lack of cooperation, and I think this is an example of cooperation, and I think it ought to be pointed out, and have just done so. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to follow up and say I think you do fantastic work. This appears to be very thorough and well written, and just a good job. Good work by the Counselor's Office and you specifically, so thank you for all you've done there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I am honored to have a chance to sign this document. I mean, after 17 years of of this community wanting to have this done and finally getting to the point of actually signing a document that moves this thing forward. Having my name on the back side of the document, I just think it's fantastic, so I'm honored to do so. See no other comments, so Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Enru?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Chairman Howell?
Aye.
Thank you,
again.
Commissioners.
Next item, please.
Item F, report of the Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting on October 27, 2016.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Joe Thomas, Director of Purchasing. Two items resulted from the meeting of the Board of Bids and Contracts of October 27th. And our first item is a four-wheel drive crew cab trucks for Sedgwick County District, Fire District Number 1. And this recommendation is to accept the low responsive bid from Davis Moore Chevrolet in the amount of $98,600 and establish contract rates as listed for a period of 3 years. And our second item is the four-wheel drive double cab trucks for Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1. And this recommendation is to accept the low responsive bid from Don Hatton Chevrolet Incorporated in the amount of $108,800 and establish contract rates as listed for a period of 3 years. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, but I do recommend approval of both items.
Very good. Commissioner Unruh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, these are both Chevrolet vehicles. They're two separate bids. I guess I'm just wondering why we didn't package them. Could we have got a better price, or they're dissimilar enough we needed two bids?
It was determined that it would be best to have the two separate bids, especially the differences between the two, and I think that was the primary reason we had talked about.
The construction
What's that? Okay, hold on a second. We'll have Brian Ritchie come forward.
Good morning. Basically, there is the Chevrolet trucks that we bid, or the specification we bid, is there's one that's basically maybe a turnkey, or what you would see a normal Chevrolet truck, and the other one that has quite a bit of modifications done to it with a utility bed and some other modifications done to it. So, having said that, is both vendors bid on both trucks, but one happened to be lower on the other than what the other one was. So that's why we didn't package them together. I'm not totally sure, but they are the double cabs, and the crew cab trucks are somewhat outfitted different. So.
Okay, well, thank you. As long as you considered it and we made our best decision, well, I'm good with that. But one other question, just curiosity. We got two trucks. We ordered 3 service manuals. But we just need one.
You had an extra manual.
In case one goes to the station.
Oh, okay.
2 stays with us.
Okay. Yeah, we did order an extra manual for one to go to the station, and the other 2 remain with the trucks. Right.
Okay.
So one for each truck, one for the station.
Well, I know that service manuals aren't a lot of fun to read, so I knew there had to be a reason. So.
That's right.
Thank you. That's all I had.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Unruh. Any other discussion? Let me ask the audience, is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on the agenda item? All right, seeing none. Commissioners, what's the will of the board?
I move we take the recommended action.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Chairman Howell?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item, please.
Consent agenda?
Commissioners, Mike Scholes, County Manager. Recommend you approve consent agenda items golf through X-ray.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second. Seeing no discussion. Let me ask, is any discussion by commissioners? All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Chairman Howell?
Aye. All right. Next item, please.
Legislative issues?
Commissioners, any legislative issues this morning? Yeah, I know.
Yes.
We may come back to that in a little bit here. Let me go ahead and take a break from a regular meeting here. I'm going to go ahead and recess the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners and call to order the governing body. Fire District Number 1 for the date of November the 2nd, 2016. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Unruh.
Present.
Commissioner Norton.
Present.
Commissioner Peterjohn.
Present.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Present.
Chairman Howell.
Present. Thank you. And next item, please.
Public agenda.
Is there anybody that signed up for speaking at the Fire District Number 1 meeting this morning? All right, seeing none. Next item, please.
Consideration of minutes. Item A, regular fire meeting minutes of September 28th, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the regular meeting minutes for September 28th, 2016, as well as October 5th, 2016. That's items A and B.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And any discussion? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Chairman Howell.
Aye. Okay, moving right along. Next item, please.
Consent agenda.
Commissioners, Mike Scholes, County Manager, recommend you approve consent agenda items Charlie through Delta.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Chairman Howell.
Aye. All right, good job. Thank you we got through that agenda very quickly. And so I'm now going to, is there any business to the Fire District before we adjourn this meeting? All right, seeing none. I will now going to adjourn the meeting of the governing body of Fire District Number 1 and call back to order the regular business meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for November the 2nd, 2016. We're back on legislative issues. Is there any legislative issues this morning for us to discuss? Okay. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Other.
Commissioners, any comments for other this morning? Commissioner Peterjohn.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although obviously at the proclamation portion, I think we covered most significant date that's coming up in the first part of November. I'd be remiss if I did not point out that November 2nd was an important day in American history, and not surprisingly, it relates to a couple of the elections that were held and some technology. On November 2nd, 1920, one of the first radio stations in the United States, KDKA, one of the few radio broadcast stations that begin with letter K east of the Mississippi, broadcast election returns where the ticket of Warren Harding and Calvin Coolidge defeated James Cox, who went on to found a little media empire that we have here a portion of. It's the Cox Cable Company, and his running mate, who went on to have some subsequent electoral success nationally. Cox's running mate for vice president in 1920 was a gentleman by the name of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. On November 2nd, 1948, one of the big election upsets in American history occurred when Harry Truman surprised all the pundits and the pollsters and defeated Thomas Dewey. So for folks out there who don't believe their vote matters, elections do matter and votes do matter, and I think we have a couple of electoral cases from November 2nd that show that, and November 2nd is an important day in American history. Just wanted to get that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterjohn. Any other comments for other today? Well, for myself, I'll just say my mom is in the hospital. I think she's watching the meeting. I'd like to just say, hi, Mom, get better, and hopefully she'll enjoy that for just a moment. That's my only comment for today. I think that's all we have for other today, so Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Executive session.
All right, Commissioner Ranzau.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session for 45 minutes to consider consultation with an attorney for this commission, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, and that the Board of County Commissioners return to this room from executive session no sooner than 11:12. The executive session is required to protect attorney-client privilege in the public interest and protect the county's financial interest and the right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position.
I'd be glad to second that. And
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I
sir.
recommend that we meet in the manager's conference room,
That'd be fine.
considering the number of people we're going to have in the room?
Okay, so we'll meet in the manager's conference room today for the executive session. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterjohn.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Chairman Howell.
Aye. Okay, we're going to move to executive session. I'll be back at about 11:12. Thank you.